I was going to record this specifically to insert into my iOS and Android app, yet I thought, why not share this powerful lesson with those who are fortunate enough to tap into it here live on Facebook? So that's what I'm doing, and here is the most important and powerful conversation that you can ever have with yourself, and how you can have it today, right here, right now, in this present moment. Here are the most important conversations that you can have with yourself. It's a twofold process. First is to go back and talk to yourself 20 years ago. So go back shortly after September 11th, 2001. That's where we were 20 years ago. Where were you? And this is a really powerful time to look back to that time, because I think we all remember where we were when September 11th, 2001 happened. So where were you? Who were you? What were you going through? What was the good, the bad, the ugly? What were the challenges that you were going through? And maybe, if you can remember, what was the most pressing challenge? The one that really had you confounded. Like, man, this is a tough one. I don't know how I'm going to get through this. And from this vantage point, from where you are right here, right now, what would be some words of wisdom, some insight that you would share with yourself 20 years ago? So for me, it was a very crazy time frame. Like, just to give you an example, in July of 2001, I quit my job at Eastern Copy Products. I was the major account manager. I dealt with all the colleges, all the large corporations, and I had gotten my dream job. And also, I had just purchased my first home, a duplex in Rochester, New York, and had just unpacked the upstairs. I lived in the upper and rented out the lower. I thought I had, this is it. I made it. I got my dream job. I got my first home. It's a duplex. I'm renting the bottom, living in the upper, and I got this life thing figured out. Then I had a company trying to recruit me to move from Rochester, New York to Charlotte, North Carolina as the publisher of the North Carolina Home Book. And long story short, it came down to me and one other person out of a huge amount of applicants. And the person who was doing the hiring said to me, he's like, Tom, man, I got a tough decision. It's between you and this other guy who's got 20 years in the publishing industry. And I said to him, I told him, I said, that's the simplest decision in the world. I'm probably the only person out of 1,000 people. There's 999 people he could beat, but I'm the one person that you have the easiest decision in the world. There's no way he can have the drive, the determination, the commitment, the discipline, the knowledge that I have. I'm the only person that would beat him out of 1,000, maybe even 10,000 people. So I feel sorry for him, but I feel happy for you because you have the easiest decision in the world. Of course, you're going to pick me because no one can do it at the level that I can. That's the level of confidence I had and have in myself, in my abilities. And that was 20 years ago. But needless to say, I got hired by this billion-dollar company and quit my job, repacked. I had just unpacked everything into this new home I had just built in, packed everything, and moved to Charlotte, North Carolina to become the publisher of the North Carolina Home Book for anyone looking to build, remodel, or decorate their $1 million plus home in Charlotte, Greensboro, or Raleigh, Durham. And I moved down there July of '01. It was right after 4th of July weekend. Like, I think that weekend, moved down there. And had 4 months to get this book completed. Now, if you do the math, you remember July '01, 4 months brings us to October, November. Halfway through is September. July, August, September, right? That's 2 months into it. And that's what happened 2 months into this 4-month project. And that's where the whole world really didn't know what to do or what was going to happen after September 11th. But fortunately, there was a Peter Lowe success event that was coming. And it was scheduled before September 11th. When September 11th happened, they canceled it, and then they came back later with a new venue and a new date, a new time. And I was going. Like, I had to go. I just knew I had to go. The difficulty was my boss, even though I was the publisher, there was a regional manager, didn't want me to go to the point where he said, if you go, you may not have a job when you come back. And I said, well, I appreciate your filling me in on that, but I feel strongly that I'm meant to go to this. And he gave me the whole, you can go to the next one. You can catch it next time it's around. I said, look, I don't know if it will be around the next time. I'm going. And I already bought tickets to meet with Zig Ziglar and have breakfast with him at this event. And I think it was October of 2001 in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. And so dealing with that in my subconscious, and just so you know, when I moved from Rochester, New York, my girlfriend at the time told me I'm pregnant. And I wasn't intending on bringing her to North Carolina with me prior to that news. But when that happened, there were some interesting things that occurred to where I ended up bringing her with me. So I had her with me. We were just buying a new house in Charlotte, North Carolina, that was right near where the pavilion is and 2 miles from the Speedway up in the university area. And literally, we were closing on it a couple days after September 11th. And I ended up getting a washer and dryer and something else, for the circumstances that, the uncertainty that was there. But all of this was happening in September of 01. So a little more than 20 years ago, but less than 21 years ago. And that's what we were dealing with. So what were you dealing with 20 years ago, shortly after September 11th? What was the chaos, the drama, the difficulties, the challenges that you were facing? And I'm saying that because you look at any part in history and you could literally insert, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times, into most every chapter of your life. Why? Because chaos is infiltrated into every aspect of what we do. There's always some element of chaos there. There's either something with our health, or someone in our close proximity with health challenges. There's relationship issues personally or in our close circle that impacts us. And there's financial challenges, either with ourselves personally or with those close to us. And if you're in a spot when, wow, we don't have any challenges, there's one waiting for you right around the corner. Like you're either in one, just getting out of one, or there's one waiting for you right around the corner. And that's not in a negative way, that's just how life is. That being said, what were you going through 20 years ago? And being who you are now, what would be some insights? What would be some wisdom that you would share with that version of you 20 years ago? For me, man, if I were to go from here back 20 years, I'd have a sit down and just imagine yourself sitting with that version of you, that other self of 20 years ago. Say, look, man, there's going to be some chaos. There's going to be some drama. There's going to be some stuff that the poop is really going to hit the fan. And there'll be moments when you think there's no way I'm getting out of this. And just rest easy and know that you are a kick-butt problem solver. That you are someone who, even when the odds seemed extremely stacked against you, you figure it out, you discern what's yours to do, you do it, and you do it with consistency. And one step and one day at a time, it all works out. Even when you're positive this is not going to work out. There's no way. Just trust your heart, trust your discernment, and trust that what's yours to do is not sit in a corner and cry, not sit in your corner and do nothing. It's to discern what's mine to do and do that. And, also remember that you're going to be the average of the 5 people that you surround yourself with. So be very choosy with who you surround yourself with, personally and professionally. Make sure they're living a life that's congruent with the life that you want to be leading and living. Right? So what would be some insights that you would share? And think about that. And have that conversation as if you were meeting with someone that you truly love, because you are. You're meeting with that version of you 20 years ago. Now, that's the first conversation. The next conversation is to go 20 years in advance. And what would that version of you say to you right here, right now? Now, here we are, 2022 at the time of this. So go to 2042, August, September of 2042. an older, wiser version of you that's, yes, been through much more chaos, much more drama, much more challenges. But this is the healthiest version of you, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. This is the one that has the optimal relationships, personally, professionally. And this is the one that has the optimal financial situation. And I say that because our future, from my perspective, is a choose your own adventure path. And I'm saying that from dead and buried to on the streets, homeless, to, getting by barely, and all the way up to doing well, to millionaire status and billionaire status. And you have to determine here, kind of like with a crossbow and a string rope attached to it, which one do you feel you're capable of attaining? And there's a self-regulating internal organism for us, like whatever the mind can conceive and believe it can achieve. Well, there's a regulator on what we can conceive. I doubt many of us will look at that future version and say, I'm going to be worth $10 trillion. It's possible, but is that believable to you and to the world? Like, so you have a self-regulating determination of what version of you, health-wise, relationship-wise, financial-wise. Send that out, boom, that's now the line that's connected to this version of you right here. Now, obviously, in order to get there, you must think, speak, and act in accordance with how that person, who would I need to be here and now to become that person? And now you bring that person back 20 years from now and converse with you in your mind. What would be the insights that version of you from the future, the most healthy, the most fit relationships, and the most fit financial situation you could ever imagine, is now sitting there with you? What is the wisdom that future version would share with you? For me, that future version really opened my eyes to the fact, remember 20 years ago from now, back when you were in North Carolina, remember that investment you made, and you made a statement. You said, this is my $50 million library. That was the amount of Nightingale Conant products that you not just invested in to have sitting in your house, you invested in diving into those while you're driving around to all the appointments. You tapped into Automobile University. You didn't just have those things as collecting dust. You invested into playing them, into listening to them over and over and over and over and again. And what that did is it ingrained the life-changing information into your brain 20 years ago. And not only that, not only learning from those audio cassette tapes and CDs, you've gone on to meet, spend time with, and work with many of those same individuals. Brian Tracy, Tony Robbins, Jim Rohn, Joe Vitale, Dan Kennedy, Jay Abraham, and on and on and on. You've spent significant time with those people in these last 20 years. Think about it. You were in the 20-year learning process, not just book learning, but actually implementation learning. And in doing so, produced multiple tens of millions of dollars in results. Now, I didn't get to keep those in my pocket, but the financial transactions were in the multiple tens of millions. I've been compensated nicely for doing that, but it's been my training grounds. Just like if you think back, Napoleon Hill was in that. W. Clement Stone was in that. Bob Proctor was in that. I spoke on stage with Bob Proctor in the Mankini, actually. And so the last 20 years have been your proving grounds. You've spoken on stages in front of hundreds of people here, thousands of people here, all around the world. And it's resonated with everybody because your message is true. It's from the heart. It's real. It's not just book knowledge. It's implementation knowledge that you've done. You've invested. You've done the work the last 20 years. You are who you are now thanks to your being the insatiable student for the last 20 years. And then, ironically, on September 11th, 2001, is when you sat on the side of the road in Charlotte, North Carolina, on the way to that early morning appointment with the interior designer who was the interior designer for many of the NASCAR drivers. And that's when you heard all the craziness happening, and you pulled over on the side of the highway and you sat there and you thought and you decided that it's time to transition from being the insatiable student to being the teacher. And shortly thereafter, you conducted your first live event in Charlotte, North Carolina. Right? And you've conducted many, many other events and spoken at many other events that you weren't conducting, but you were speaking at since then. And your teaching has resonated because it works. Because it's not just book knowledge, it's implementation knowledge. And the real differentiator is you give a shit about people. You see the better version of themselves. In many cases, they don't see the version that you see. You know they're not living up to their full potential. You know there's more they can do to find more fulfillment, to find more joy, to make more impact. And you also know, and you got to spend time with Zig before he passed as well, one of your other heroes. You can have everything in life you want if you simply help enough others get what they want. You know that's the golden rule of business. You've implemented that. 2, prove that it's right. Prove that it's congruent. But also prove to yourself and others that they have more to achieve. They have more to accomplish. As do you. So that future version is telling me this and also saying you already know what to do. You're prepared to now, with the foundation that you've built in the last 20 years, to use what you know, to implement what you know with consistency, with a clear vision of where you're going, belief that you'll get there from the law of sowing and reaping, belief in, the golden rule. You can have everything in life you want if you simply help enough others get what they want. Belief in yourself, belief in your products, belief in your service, belief in your message. You've identified and aligned with all of the mentors. You've worked with many of them at a very deep level. You've taken the proper action. Not just 20 plus years ago when you became the national bicycle champion, when you became the honor man out of boot camp, #1 in 5 different sales organizations, but you translated that into your business endeavors and have shined. Right? You know what to do. It just boils back to that one statement: lack of clarity is the root of all failure. Now it simply boils down to you gaining clarity on, of all the different potential things you could do, what's the thing that you're choosing to do that you feel can make the most impact. Do that. And just because you make that commitment here and now doesn't mean you have to stick with that for the next 20, 30 years, but that's what you've discerned is yours to do right now. Do that. And with new information as the days, the weeks, the months, the years unfold, you can clarify that vision. Is it still on track, or is it modified a little bit? And continually improvise, adapt, and overcome. Enjoy the journey. You are a joyous creator. You came here. Your soul, which is timeless and eternal, came here to be the joyous creator in this body. You've done a good job at it so far. Now it's time to amplify that. And in having more joy, spreading more joy, giving more value, you will amplify that to others. And by combining that with the steps, with the strategies, with the lessons that you've learned, not just in these 20 years, but in your 50 years. But the last 20 specifically have been, in essence, when Napoleon Hill was commissioned to study the science of success from Andrew Carnegie. Andrew Carnegie told him it's going to be 20 years, no pay, and you'll at the end of 20 years, you'll have figured out from interviewing and interacting with all those amazing experts that you're able to interact with, you'll have figured out the principles of success. In essence, I've been on that journey for the last 20 years, not just through the cassettes and the CDs and the videos, but interacting with some of the best minds of our time at a deep level. And that's how I'm wise. So that future version is telling me, you've graduated from boot camp. It works. You know you change lives. You've been in front of clients that are doing significantly well, multiple tens of millions of dollars per year. And they even told you, we've had Sir Richard Branson here. We've had Rich Schefren here. We've had Brian Tracy here. We've had, and on lists of huge, well-known and respected experts. And they said, so we're not expecting that you're going to share anything we haven't heard before, but let's have the conversation anyhow. At the end of the conversation, and they've invested hundreds of thousands of dollars with all these different experts, the CEO and the president, with pages of notes, both turned to themselves and said, holy cow, this was better than all of the rest. Right? I'm not intimidated by anybody. I know I have a unique personality, unique experience, unique perspective, and it doesn't matter to me who you've worked with or where you are in your life. I know without a doubt, A, we're going to have a kick-butt conversation. B, I have the wisdom, insights, and experience from my unique perspective, experience, and personality, and being that insatiable student for 20 plus years, that when we meet, I have the ability, regardless of who you met with, to change your trajectory. If we're comparing it to black belts, I'm the Bruce Lee, not intimidated by bigger, seemingly stronger looking opponents. I know my stuff, and I know it works. How do I know it works? Because I've worked with a wide variety of diverse entrepreneurs, men, women, industries, and have heard it all. And I'm one of the unique people who not only have heard it all, understand that we're humans. Yes, from the outside, it may look like the most envious position and role to be in, but I know regardless, there's pain, there's suffering, there's things that aren't going as well as you would like them to go. Many times I've dealt with clients who have shared with me stuff they haven't shared with any of their counselors. And this is from a non-judgmental way. I've never spoken about any of that confidential stuff with anybody. And that's just who I am. I get the fact that we're human too. And from the outside, everything looks like, man, if I only had that person's life. And that person is like, only if you knew the crap that I'm dealing with. And I know that crap involves running $100 million plus businesses, and decisions that you make impact the employees that you have. A wrong decision doesn't just impact you and your company, it impacts a large percentage of your employees. I know the sleepless nights that come from that. I know the level of addiction that is out there. It's not like the old addictions back in the day. Would you have alcohol, drugs, and the opposite sex? And sometimes the same sex. Who knows? No judgment. But nowadays, there's games, there's apps, there's all, and the apps is a wide topic. You pick the app. Which is your app that steals your most precious and valuable asset called time? Is it YouTube? Is it Instagram? Is it TikTok? Is it, you name it, on and on and on. And even married clients, married successful people with hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue that are addicted to the dating apps still, right? And swiping on that. And I'll just share this one insight, which is also in the app, but I feel it's important to share here. 30 minutes of mindless swiping per day at the end of the year equals 4.5 40-hour work weeks. First of all, you're automatically thinking, I wish I only mindlessly swiped 30 minutes a day. An hour is 9 40-hour work weeks in a year. 2 months and 1 week of mindless swiping. So now that I've shared that with you, hopefully that's a big mind expanding poof to make you say, holy crap, I got to figure out what is wasting and stealing my most precious and ever fleeting asset of time and stop it. and redirect that to the important areas, the big rock areas of my life, my health, my relationships, my finances. And health isn't just a reflection in the mirror. That's your mental health, your relationships, and your emotional health. Your mental, physical, and emotional. Your relationships is not just your significant other. It's your personal relationships, your professional relationships, and your social relationships. Not all relationships are equal. You got to know who your people are. And if you aren't dedicating consistent time to those people, they're not feeling the love. Financially, you got your today money. The bills come every 30 days. What's the activities that are yours to do that ensure you're maximizing that? You got the tomorrow money projects beyond 30 days. Those bigger projects take more time, more energy, more planning, more implementation. But when they do, they have a larger propensity to have a large inflow of cash and profits for you. And the third side of that is your contribution. Where are you feeling that you're making a difference? What attracts you to say, I want to put my resources, my time, my energy, my finances into helping this? What's this for you? It's different for everybody. But there's nothing more fulfilling with that. The more you give, the more you receive. And so, what would your future version of you, the epitome version of you, the best version of you with optimal health, optimal relationships, optimal finances, what would be the insights that version of you would share? I'll just share with you 10 years ago when I recorded a video, 39 years old, turning 40. Now I'm 49, turning 50. But I remember that video like it was yesterday. It didn't feel like it's 120 months ago. But I will tell you this, that 20-year version of me 10 years ago kicked my butt. Like verbally went up and down one side of me and jumped to the other side and just went off. Like it's time to grow the F up. You got to get your stuff together. Right? And he went up and down on me because that's what I needed at that time. I'm a whole different person 10 years later. Much of it was due to that conversation. You know, I haven't drank in 4.5, almost 5 years. Sober for 4.5, 5 years out of the last 10. And that's just one of the many transitions of me choosing where to invest my most precious and ever-fleeting asset. Where are you going to choose to invest your most precious and ever-fleeting asset? Well, if you're here watching this live, I would definitely highly recommend going to thesimplifier.com, registering for my free iOS and Android app. And at the same time, once you do that, you enter your name and email. It's going to bring you to the second page where you're able to get the app. You check your email for the special code that it sent you. You log in once. Now you're in. Now there's huge amounts of value in there waiting for you. Scan it, see which one calls out to you. It's not in a watch it in any specific order type of format. Feel what calls out to you. Dive into that. And one training at a time, it'll connect some dots for you. And while you're at thesimplifier.com, you'll notice there's a choice somewhere on that page to go to the success intake form. That success intake form is the questionnaire that all of my high-level clients go through before we schedule a call. That questionnaire, A, is going to ask you questions that most people haven't asked in many years, and some will never ask in their entire lifetime. And that leads to our lives will be exactly where they are based upon the questions we've asked ourselves. So if you want different results, you got to ask different questions. So part of that is asking yourself questions that will help give you that clarity on where you are and where you want to be. And the other aspect is I'm the only one that reads it, but in reading it, that saves us, when we schedule a time to talk, multiple hours of getting to know each other and asking questions. Like it literally gives me all the questions I know to know where you are, where you're looking to go, and how when we chat, it can get right to the bottom line. It can get right to the meat of the assistance and the wisdom and the insights that I can share with you. So we don't have to do a whole hour or two of catching up. It does that all in the questionnaire. The questionnaire takes, depending on the person, 15 to 30 minutes. But that saves us all that time. And so if you feel so called and you're ready to recognize that if nothing changes, nothing changes, it's time for a change. While you're at the Simplifier, go to the Success Intake Form, complete that, and then we'll be in touch to schedule an appointment. And from there, we'll see where it leads. So go to thesimplifier.com, register for the iOS and Android app, go through that process, and then go to the Success Intake Form at thesimplifier.com. Complete that, and we'll be in touch sometime soon to have that conversation. And the cool part is, whether or not we actually schedule that, I'd love to schedule that. I'm busy, you're busy, we'll figure out a time that works. But the questions that you'll go through, and if you put the 15 to 30 minutes into answering them, you'll recognize your life is the direct reflection of the questions that you've been asking yourself. And when you ask and answer those questions to yourself, you'll have breakthroughs with or without me, just by going through those questions that I've selected. And then when we have the chat, it can go deeper. But those are the next steps. I hope this was helpful. So step number 1, determine what would be some insights you would share with yourself from 20 years ago, shortly after September 11th, 2001. Then pick that best version of yourself from the future 20 years from now. What would that best version of you come back and share with you? What are the insights? What's the wisdom? What's the ass kicking that version might be having with you? Then the next step is go to thesimplifier.com. Register for my iOS and Android app. Huge amounts of value waiting for you inside for free. And then once that's done, then go at thesimplifier.com and go through the questions of the Success Intake Form. And then we'll see where it leads from there. Hope this was helpful. Look forward to chatting with you soon. Until next time, make today great. Bye for now.